Hello everyone, this is Triple Valve 62 at the depot saying welcome and thank you for joining me today wherever you are. This is your first time checking out my channel. I do hope you look at the other videos and find them interesting. If you want to sub me you can, and if you do I will sub you back most definitely. To all my regular subscribers, thank you so much for your comments and thumbs up on the videos that I've got up there. Really appreciate that. Sorry I haven't done anything recently due to the fact I've been so busy at work, busy at home, and just really haven't been well the last couple of 2 weeks. So I'm back to full strength today, thank goodness, and I'm enjoying this video today to do with you. Anyway, today's topic about what we're going to be talking about is sound. Now, sound on a model railway I think brings extra dimension to it. If we've got a model railway baseboard with an oval track going around, a few stations and some trees and some buildings, it gives us great dimension because you go from just a basic circle of track on a piece of baseboard with nothing, and when you start adding buildings and trees and scenery, it gives it an extra dimension. It makes it three-dimensional. And when we talk about three-dimensional in sound, it's amazing what a little bit of sound can do on a model railway, how it can transform it. For example, if at home you've got a picture of a steam train in a book and you look at that picture, you get the image of the train that you're looking at, but if you hear the sound of it, it gives the mind an extra dimension. It makes you think in a three-dimensional way and it makes it come alive. So sound creates life in a model railway, I think, definitely. In the past, sound's been a very basic thing I think we could have added and have added on a model railway in the past. Certainly for me as a kid, you may have done this at home. You may have got an old tape cassette from back in the day of steam train noises, or even an old vinyl LP, that's going back, and playing that in the background to running your trains. Most people still do that, so it's a very cheap and easy and fun way of adding sound to the layout. There's nothing wrong with that. But with people like Hornby that have come along and brought out these fantastic locos with sound chips already built in them, and that you obviously put on the track and you connect up to your DCC equipment, and you can punch in different sounds at the right moments, and that's all very great for exhibitions and people who've got lots of money. But for the average model railway enthusiast and builder, money is a very important thing. It needs to be spent in the right area at the right time. And certainly this video is aimed at a lot of younger people out there that are just coming into the hobby and maybe don't have much money to throw around. This is a very easy and, in my opinion, a very cheap way of bringing sound into the world of model railways. And it's a company out there in the UK called TrainTech. Now, I'm going to post a link on the description box. If you drop down the description of this video, you'll see a link, and you click on that link and that will take you to the TrainTech page on YouTube. It shows you what I'm going to be talking about and how to install it in your model railway locos and your wagons and vehicles and so forth. It's pretty limitless in terms of scale. The only thing I imagine it wouldn't fit on is Z gauge. N gauge, I think they do one for N. I'm pretty sure they do. But anyway, what I'm going to show you, I think in my opinion, is very cool. So today I'm going to show you two of the sound chips which they currently offer. One is for a steam loco and the other is for a diesel. And I'm going to show you how I installed them personally on my own layout, and what I put them in, and the best results I've got and found, and the pros and cons of the things that you obviously buy. So stand by, and I'm going to grab myself a drink, and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, welcome back. So let's get right to it. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the steam sound module and where I fitted it. Now, before I show you what I fitted it in, I did try and mount it inside quite a few tenders. Hornby tenders, Bachmann tenders. I tried mounting it in an A3 tender, and also tried mounting it in a Bachmann B1 tender, and even a K3 by Bachmann, and neither of which really fitted very well because of the internal tender weights and the way the tender was moulded, and bits and pieces got in the way. And the only way I found to mount it was exactly like how TrainTech show you in the link, is to put it inside a wagon. And it's very simple and easy to do, and this is how I show you I did it. Okay, so let's bring in our patient on the operating table. This is a really old Bachmann wagon. I had this ages and ages ago actually. Let's bring the light in, give you guys a better image at home of what's going on. Zoom in as well. There we go. So this is a standard Bachmann Great Western ventilated van. and I had this ages and ages and ages ago. And what I've done is basically underneath I drilled several holes, only 3 actually, as you can see there, 1, 2, 3, 3 large holes, and this will actually allow the sound to escape from inside the wagon. And that hole there, sorry, it's router point, that hole there where the screwdriver is, that originally was the retaining screw that held the body of the chassis with the van body as such. That was actually taken away and ripped out and just basically re-drilled a bit larger to give an extra hole. So there's 3 holes there. You don't have to have it in that order, but just a couple of holes drilled in the bottom will allow the sound to escape. And the idea is that the van body sits on the chassis quite tightly, but also it comes off like so, as you can see. And there's our 3 holes, as you can see I've drilled there. And the reason that you want, let's just give the game away, the reason that you want the body to come off the van is because of this. This is the coin type cell batteries. These are quite popular and very easy to pick up in any pound shop. Any shop, virtually anywhere, does these. And if you buy them in packs of 3 or multi-packs, even better, because you've got a stash of these ready. These do last quite long, and the sound chip mechanism that's inside I'm going to show you has got an automatic shut-off mechanism with the sensor. When it senses, it's based on movement, so I'll show you in a minute how it works, but basically when there's no movement it will shut down and turn itself off, and it will save battery life. But you can obviously put these in and out if you wish. The main thing is I wanted to detach the body from the chassis, because you want a way to access this very easily without having to undo a bunch of screws or break anything. It just comes straight off, pop the battery out, pop a new one in, job done. Great for exhibitions and great for stuff at home. So if we look inside, I'll show you, it just comes out there. Nope. This is what all the fun is about. This is our Steam sound effects chip, and this little bit of homemade jiggery pokery on the end here is our sound tube. Now, as you can see, it's a piece of cardboard I've rolled up. I've put a bit of masking tape around it, and it sits over the base of the speaker. I'll just remove this very gently to show you how easy it is to come off. Doesn't break anything. And there is our piece of technology. It's basically a speaker mounted on a little circuit board with the sound chip in there. If we flip it over, you will see on the camera at home those brass contacts, and that space there is where the battery occupies in that space. You can clip it right in there, and it's quite easy. This long grey lead with that black bit on the end, this is what does the work. This is the motion sensor. Now I'll show you in a minute. This is extremely sensitive to vibration and movement. So even if it's stationary on the track and you happen to have another train rumble past, it will set it off. Or if you've got a little girl at home like me who goes into Daddy's model railway room and shuts the door very loudly, it sets it off. So it's quite very sensitive. So I do advise in the instructions and also in the video that you have this motion sensor lead away from the speaker as far as possible. Hence that's why it's got a long bit of wire on there. Have it poking out that way as far as you can. Don't have this too close to the speaker, because the vibration of the speaker will keep this on for ages, whereas if you have it away, it will shut down when it's finished doing its thing, and it's basically detect there's no movement. It's quite simple to operate, but the reason, let's go back to this piece of tube that I made here. This is not the bit of tube you get with it. Basically you do get a large, or about the same size in diameter and length, a piece of very thin rubber like tubing, which you basically fit over the end of the speaker, as you'll see in the other video I posted. But unfortunately I chopped mine to pieces a bit too much, trying to fit it inside different locos, and in the end I had no tubing left. But it does tell you in these wonderful instructions that you get with each module, this is what you get inside, and it obviously shows you how to fit it into N gauge. Here you go, N gauge for example. You can put it on a wagon load, how to disguise that, you see, and it gives you various ways. There you go, that's how they've done that for the N gauge one there. Put it inside a carriage, little four-wheeler underneath there, and there's ways and means you can fit these. Use your imagination basically. I'm just going to fold this out basically, show you what I'm talking about. There we go. So it's quite simple. On the left of the diagram there, you can see at home from this leaflet I'm holding up to the camera. On the left here by my thumb, there's the piece of rubber tubing you get in the kit. Shows you just push it onto the speaker base, and then you finally clip your battery onto the back of the circuit board, and hey presto, it's ready to go. And once you put it on the circuit board, it will come on automatically. The only downfall of these things, there's probably a way you could do it if you're really clever. You could probably, what I would do, or have a go at, you've got where these two battery terminal connections are, those two brass contacts. If you could find a way to see underneath where they come out on the circuit board, and then solder two wires up to a separate switch, a non-off switch that you could hide in, or drill a hole or file a slot for in a loco body or something. That way you could manually turn it on and off, but it actually works with the sensor. That's the thing. The sensor does all the work, so when it's finished, there's no movement, it will shut off. But it's just designed to be a little bit of cheap fun and entertainment for the layout, but it's also it is quite good. So what I'll do now, I'll show you the principle of how it works. So we get our sound chip, and before I install this battery, guys, I want to show you as well. If you can see at home on the camera, I'll just bring this up as close as I can without getting too blurry. Oops, sorry. There we go. Now can you see these two fine holes that sit above the grey lead? There's two holes, one, two, those little holes there. Those two little holes, when you originally buy this sound chip, they have what's called a link wire, which is basically like a piece of common staple, but you put in a staple gun. Something similar, like a U-shaped piece of wire, actually bridges those two holes together. And what it does, it's a sound limiter. So it's designed to run with less volume. So it's a volume control switch basically. So if you have the two wires linked in, and when you buy it, it will obviously fire up, but it won't be as loud. If you remove the piece of wire, which I've done, it makes the sound a bit more louder. I think about 35% louder. And then coupled with the speaker tube, it sounds obviously a lot more better. They do say that if you take the link wire out completely, it will shorten the battery life. Well, I don't particularly care about that. I want loud sound. So what I've done on my version here, I've removed the link wires from those two holes. And as you can hear, it sounds much better. So first of all, what we'll do is you pop the battery in, and you put it in plus side up, which is the shiny surface in, and the way you do it is you put it in so it's this side. Oop, apologies. There we are. Does clip in. Got to be a little bit careful with it, but once it's in, as you can hear, it sounds pretty decent. It's got a loco whistle, and obviously you can hear the exhaust is building up. Now, you can all hear that at home, and watch what happens when I add a simple bit of cardboard tubing to the end. That sounds good. So as you can see, if we leave it stationary, I'll just let you hear the sounds. So the moment it's stationary, you hear the pump ticking over. Cold enough. and there you go, it shuts off. So after a while it does shut off when it doesn't detect any movement, it's stationary. So if you you're at home, you're doing a little bit of shunting around the layout, you've got to drive the loco obviously very slowly. Once you get the sound going up, then if you gradually reduce the speed of the loco, then obviously it will match. Obviously it will detect the train is going slower or coming to a stop, so the noise will decrease. And then obviously if you have the wagon stationary in the siding or a train stationary, as you can see, it will shut off after a period of time, so it doesn't keep going on and draining the battery, and it does shut off, which is a good thing. So that's a good bit of technology there. So moving on to installation, how I installed it. So as you can see, I've got the tube speaker design. It does say in the leaflet that you can use anything you like for a speaker tube. It doesn't have to be the rubber material supplied. You can use a piece of card like what I've done. You can use a plastic bottle top. You can have some great experiments at home. I mean, there's nothing to say, for example, that you could get, say, the end of this bottle, which mine's obviously got white spirit in, a similar type bottle. You could, I'd imagine, you could cut off about there, because that's about the right diameter, and just use that even if you had a larger project. But in reality, guys, I wouldn't advise that, because as you well know, the most space you've got to play with inside a tender or a wagon is sort of something about that size. And as you can see, what I've done in my wagon body, I've got a adhesive pad there, which I think I got these from work because they were going to throw them out, so I thought, well, they come in handy for the railway. So I stuck one inside there like that, and you can attach it via that way. So all I'm going to do is simply pick it up. Oh, it's gone off again. So all we can do is I lay mine literally inside there like that, press it down, and then I just tuck my little lead in there like that. Alright, whoop, camera just dropped on the floor. Great. So then what we do obviously is put the bottom on like that. Okay, we move it around like that, and roll it, now it's just detected the train has stopped moving, so it's making less exhaust noise. That's the brakes. If I push it with my finger, and obviously on the layout you drive this according to the sound. That's what you do. Alright, so I think that's great. I love that bit of technology. I think it's really good. So there we are, that's how I've done mine. Very simple, easy way to do. I would suggest mounting yours in a similar way, either in a wagon or in a coach even. Doesn't have to be a box van like mine. It could be any wagon that accommodates the space basically. In terms of mounting it inside a tender, you can do it, but it's a little bit fiddly. I think the Railroad Range Flying Scotsman by Hornby, the inside of the tender, you might be able to put it in there. But again, because they use a lot of mouldings and weights and bits and pieces inside tenders these days, there's not much space for it. So I find by having it in a wagon like this, you can put it behind any steam loco with that particular type of whistle. So you can put it behind a Great Western loco, for example, or a Gresley B1 or B12 or B17. If you listen to the loco noises, particularly the exhaust beat and the whistle, you might have a loco at home in your collection that will probably match that. For example, like I just mentioned, a Great Western engine, or a Gresley B1 or something like that. And the great idea I thought by putting mine in a wagon is that it's easy to get at, and it's easy to change the battery when it's time to change the battery and it runs out. And you haven't got to faff about unscrewing things and breaking things to get at it, and dismantling the whole loco just to take a chip out. This is nice and easy. Lift straight off, bosh, take the battery out, plug it back in, seat the body back on the van, job done. And it's great to take into exhibitions and also being portable on the layout as well. And you can put, obviously, you can form this up in a rake of wagons and a goods train, and it's pretty much a very versatile little vehicle now. So there we go. Oh, it's off again. Anyway, I'll just stop this a minute, and I'll bring up the next diesel sound for you to enjoy and see how I've installed. So stay tuned. Okay guys, welcome back to the second part of the video. Hope you've got a nice cup of tea or something ready next to you. Moving on to our second donor of the sound chip installation is going to be this Hornby Class 31 from the Railroad range. This is a Class 40 that initially was released from the factory as I think it was one of their first experimental sound range models from Railroad. Railroad range being a budget range from Hornby, giving you a loco that doesn't mind being handled by sort of younger hands. There's no fragile bits to break off on it like the modern top end models, which is great, and they're designed to be played with, but also they look very realistic and very pleasing to the eye. At the same time, they're a budget, they're not over expensive, and most people could probably afford one of these at the time. Anyway, enough about the actual loco. Moving on to the sound chip inside. Now these, as mentioned, did come released with a sound chip, obviously intended for DCC operation. My version here I bought off eBay, and it came as an analog running model. Someone had removed the DCC chip, put a blanking plate inside, and removed the sound speaker and chip from inside, and obviously used it on a different project, which was fine for me because I love the loco, and I thought I want a green Class 40, but I don't want to pay too much for a top end Bachmann version, and most of the Class 40s out I've got sound chips in, which I don't want, so I don't have DCC. So at the time I bought it as an analog running model. However, when Train Tech released their sound effects chips, and I noticed they got a diesel one on the market, I thought, oh, that'll go great in my Class 40. So I'm going to show you exactly how and where I installed my Train Tech sound chip in this Class 40. And when you see how I've installed it, you will not believe how snugly it fits in here. So what I'll do, I'll stop the video, because as soon as I touch this diesel, it's going to go off. So I'll just pause it a second and get the body shell off and show you exactly, if you got one of these at home for example, where to fit them. Okay everyone, welcome back, and as you can see we've got the Class 40 body off the chassis, and you can have a look exactly how simple and easy it is to fit this Train Tech sound effects chip into your Class 40 for example. Now the Hornby Railroad range, as mentioned, came with a built-in speaker system, and as you can see this little round collar that's got the screw there and a screw on the other side. As you can see this, I'll bring it in closer so you can see it better. That's better, isn't it? There we go. So as you can see there's a round collar that sits around the speaker. That originally held the original speaker in place, and obviously when I bought the model it was converted to analog and it was doing nothing. So believe it or not, that sound chip from Train Tech fitted perfectly in that hole. So all I had to do basically was sit it in the hole after removing the speaker collar there. Once it was in there, put the collar back on, and then feed the sensor lead up through the collar, and then secure it with the two screws, and then just pop the little bit of flexible tubing over the speaker to give it a bit more richer sound. I've put the sensor lead, which it actually senses the motion as we saw earlier with the Wagon. You put it up this end as far as you can away from the speaker, you'll get a better result in terms of play with it basically. The other thing to note as well, if you're going to fit it like I've done, it's very easy, but be very careful with this speaker tubing. As you can see, I had to trim mine right down because of the roof. It won't fit all the way inside, so you might have to play about with it and just cut it to the right length and get it right. But the great thing about it is the cavernous sound that is generated by this Class 40 body, because obviously inside, as you can see, there's loads of space, and this acts like a speaker chamber. And as you'll hear when I put this back on, and you'll hear it, those four holes for the exhaust ports have been purposely cut out so they allow the sound to escape. If on your chosen model of choice that you're going to fit it up to. For example, if you're fitting up to a Hornby, an old Hornby or a Lima Class 47 or 37, one of the ideas you could do probably is get a very fine drill bit and very carefully drill out the exhaust ports on the roof, and that gives it added escape for sound. The more sound holes you have on a model, when you're fitting up one of these chips, basically allows the sound to escape. So you've got to have one or two holes for the sound to be able to come out and you be able to hear it properly. But like I said, on this particular model, on the roof, the exhaust ports are already pre-filed out, but there's nothing stopping you, for example, on say an old Hornby 47, if you're going to put it in one of those, the exhaust port on that, you could drill a few holes quite easily. Obviously don't go too mad, but there are ways and means of letting the sound out. I mean, you could always turn the model over, for example. Another way of doing it, a suggestion would be, if you don't want to ruin any holes on your roof of your body of your loco, you could always flip it over and invert the speaker so the battery is facing upwards towards you and the speaker is pointing downwards into, say, the fuel tanks, and drill out a few holes underneath in the fuel tanks, which would give it a nice clear sound, and also the sound will be projected outwards from underneath the loco. So that's another way you could do it as well, if you're with me. Anyway, what I'll do, I'll just stop the video again and put the body back on, and we'll just have a little play with it and see what happens, okay? Right, okay, so what I'll do, I'll finish up this video now with both locos, or both sound chips in action. So we'll start off with the Class 40. It's on a van working, loads of fans behind it, and we'll just combine this with my Gauge Master simulator and brake control, which is analog but it works great, and I'll just shut up and you can see or listen to the results for yourself. Right, okay, this is the second and final testing of the sound chip from Train Tech. This is using a Bachmann B1, which is this beastie here. He's got loads of coal on, full tender of water, the signal's off, so let's see what she sounds like with the wagon formed in the train that has the sound chip as mentioned. And there we go. So that will shut off in a minute by itself. As you can see, it's quite effective. And these are only about, I think, £37 to buy from Hattons or online. When you consider the price of a DCC sound chip, a sound speaker, the system, and also all the equipment to go with it, this is a lot cheaper. And as you can see, easy to install and a bit of fun to play with. Anyway, that's my update today. Hopefully some more videos coming your way. Thanks for watching and have a great time. Bye bye.